Hello, everyone. This is your girl Sade reporting live from the Win in STEM podcast. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for tuning into another episode. For our first time listeners, Win in STEM is a platform to highlight successful people of color STEMists to show others how to get a seat at the table and win in science, technology, engineering, and math. In our last episode, we kicked off our STEM career path series where we highlighted the career as an actuary. So today, we'll be highlighting the career as a data scientist. So I have the pleasure of having an Instagram, TikTok celebrity as a guest. Her name is Chinelo Oyekwe, aka Nello Techie. So if you're looking for information on all things data, she is your girl, and she has so many resources to help people break into tech. And I'm happy to have her on the podcast. So thank you for being here, Chinelo.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's always nice chatting with you. So, yeah, this is.
So before we get started, one of the things we do on the podcast is to allow our guests to introduce themselves. So basically, unapologetically, telling our listeners who you are, what you do, share any accomplishments. This is your time to brag, your time to shine. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. So my name is Iberi Chinelo Oyekwe. I go by Nello Techie on social media. Basically, what I do is just help people break into careers in technology. Doesn't necessarily have to be data science, but I am a data scientist. So to talk about like my background and how I got into data science, my degree is actually in computer science. I have two degrees in computer science. So I've always been like a math, computer science, programming person. But when I moved here, I struggled with navigating that and corporate America. And so when I eventually, after like interviewing and just trying to figure it out, when I found my way, when I found my first role, I wanted to like help people because I didn't want anyone to go through that process. It was really hard for me. I wanted to like share with my knowledge just to help people not struggle as much as I did. And so that's kind of how my platform came about. I have mentored over 200 people so far via Instagram, and I am now building like a course where I'm actually going to be teaching people like skill sets that they will need to succeed in data science. So that's just like a little overview about me and my background.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. And then probably at the end of the episode, you can give us a little bit more information on the course and when it will be kicking off.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So let's start off with the basics, real basics, the foundation. What is data science?
So, data science really is just providing solutions to businesses, but you're doing that with tech. So, we use data, we look for insights in data, look for problems that you can solve with data, and present those solutions to the business. So, it could be a use case, it could be helping businesses speed up their processes, just finding gaps by looking at their data, analyzing and finding ways that you can literally help them. So a lot of it is insights, but using technology to provide those insights.
Mm. So in data science, what type of like industry can you work in or like the different career paths within data science?
So you can work in every industry. Data really is industry proof. I like to say that because every industry, if you think about it, we're all generating data, right? Even with
Mhm.
this, Shadi, I'm sure you have like your own little database for your podcast or something like that.
Mhm.
So there's always data everywhere. What I tell my mentees is you can specialize and be like an expert in say the medical field or transportation or like a tech company, but your skill sets you can always transfer to another industry because
Mhm.
what you have the skills is just like software engineering, right? You can literally work with any company. You can be a
Hmm.
software engineer at any company. You would just need to study that particular domain and understand how you can support their business.
Mm, yeah, that makes sense. So, how did you become a data scientist? What motivated you to pursue a career in this field?
My main motivation was to pay, honestly.
Money.
Yes, data scientists are paid pretty decent. And so I wanted to choose a career that compensated me based on the skill sets that I have.
Hmm.
So I decided to go for data science. Also, I honestly enjoy working with data. I love just solving problems. There's so much like satisfaction that comes with a career as well. So it can get tedious, but when you see like the results of your work, it's always worth the work. So I didn't want to work in a career where it's all work and then there's no visibility. You don't get credit for the work that you do. And so with
Hmm.
data science, a lot of the times you're needed to translate your work, right? Because it's insights. Stakeholders want to talk to you to interpret the data, and you're like the bridge between the stakeholder and the software engineers, the tech team. So it gave me visibility as well in a lot of the companies that I've worked with. So that was
Hmm.
also another reason why I chose the career.
Did you always start off as a data scientist, or were you in a different field, or are you from straight from school you went into data science?
So I started off as an analyst actually, and I've worked across
Mhm.
multiple roles. I've worked in data engineering, I've worked as a data analyst engineer. So um, I've really worked like across multiple roles before I eventually started working as a full blown data scientist. But I think the most common thing across all the roles that I've been in is that it has been data focused. So I started as
Mm,
an analyst, and then I did some engineering, and then I did this role where I was an analyst engineer, and then now I'm a data scientist. So that's another good thing about working with data that I always tell people: the career trajectory. Like, there's so much that you can do with your knowledge. And
mhm,
my story is just one, like, it's unique to me, right? I know people who start with data, but then they eventually go to like project management or even software engineering.
mhm.
So, yeah, basically, that's my story. Yeah, that's how I started.
Awesome. So, what is your day to day like? So, what is it like working as a data scientist?
There's no 2 days for me are the same. It really just depends on where I'm at and the project that I'm working on. There are days that are like meeting heavy. There are days that I'm trying to just handle a fire drill. Maybe something is broken in our process. There are days where I have to like talk to stakeholders and explain things to them. It really just depends on what's going on at the time. Right now, we just deployed a model and we're testing it. So my day to day is not, I don't really have a lot going on. I'm just getting feedback and seeing if
Mhm,
there's anything that I can, work on with regards to that. So it's kind of like downtime for me right now. But there are also days where it's like really busy. We have like a very stringent deadline and we have to push something out really quickly. And then it'll be more fast paced. So it really just depends on, and that's one thing that I do like about the role as well. No 2 days are the same. Every day you go in just expecting to just solve problems. Whatever's going on
mhm.
to you, you handle it.
I think that's common between a lot of the STEM careers that no day is the same. You have busy days, you have long days. I think that's like the benefit and the fun of being or having a STEM career, that it's exciting and always keeps you on your toes
Yeah,
and being allows you to learn new skills at the same time.
I agree.
So what challenges have you faced in your role?
The most challenge I face is just getting people to have confidence in me. Um, a lot of
Mhm.
people when they meet me, they don't. But the first thing, I don't think that I look like somebody who has the skill sets that I have. So
Mhm.
there's always, People often doubt, my performance abilities first.
Mm,
So I've noticed that, I have to always come off really strong. And that's really challenging. I it's hard for me, but it's just like I have to do it every time. No one would take me
mhm,
seriously if I didn't come off as strong as I do at work. Um,
mhm,
and I don't know if this is a challenge that is just that I face because I'm female or black, but I find that I have to, always put my foot on the ground a lot to be heard, to be taken seriously.
mhm.
So that's definitely one challenge that I faced day to day in my career so far. And then with just the work itself, sometimes it gets really tedious. There are long hours that you have to put in to be successful. You may have like stringent deadlines. You may not feel like doing the work, but you have to because you have people that are, they're waiting for like results from you. So that's also another challenge with being a data scientist.
I definitely feel you on the challenge of trying to have people believe in you. Because me, as a black engineer and a female, there's not a lot of us, right? So sometimes I feel like I have to go above and beyond and do extra effort to either get my voice out or just to have someone agree on my idea or something. For example, let's say I say an idea,
Mm,
no one will pay attention to it, but another colleague will say the same thing and everyone will pay attention, right? So
yeah,
it's that challenges that we face, but I think what helps is to have advocates, even mentors, sponsors in our field to advocate for us and be on our side and to let people know that we're actually producing quality good work, even better work than those who have been in the company in the field for 20 years, right?
yeah, I agree with you.
So we know that there isn't a one size fits all approach to becoming a data scientist, and there are a lot of different paths.
Hmm.
So for those who want to get into the field, but they're confused, they don't know where to start, maybe they have a degree from a different background, or maybe they don't have a degree. What advice would you give to them to help them transition into data science?
That's a really good question, and that's a question that I get all the time. So, for people who want to transition into data science, there are so many options. I always say you can get a degree, like degrees are still valuable, right?
Mhm,
So, if you maybe have an undergrad, there are data science degrees that you can get, like a master's in data science, if that's really what you want to do. If you cannot afford that, you can go to a boot camp. There are a lot of boot camps that teach data science as well. Lastly, you can self teach, right? For me,
mhm,
I did a lot of self teaching because I wanted to like close a lot of skill gaps. I just realized that there were things that were required to succeed in data science that I didn't have, and I taught myself those things. So you can actually self teach. The only thing with self teaching is that it requires a lot of discipline. And if you know
mhm.
that you're not someone who can be accountable to yourself and teach yourself, I recommend just enrolling in a boot camp or getting an actual degree. So these are really the three main pathways. You can either get a degree, go through a boot camp, or teach yourself.
When you taught yourself, did you use any type of like website or platforms to help you? Because I know there's like website called edX or Coursera, Khan Academy. Did you use any type of platforms like that, or even YouTube?
Yes, I used a lot of platforms. And I didn't want to spend a ton of money because I would learn like multiple things. As I discovered new things, I just went and educated myself on them. So I used Coursera, I used Udemy, I used edX, and I would dabble around different resources because sometimes Coursera would be good for, say, learning machine learning, but you would find that there's a YouTube video that teaches you better if you're learning, say, a statistical concept, right? So I dabbled a lot of I used a ton of resources. There was no like one source of truth that I used to learn. But whenever I discovered that there was one particular concept that I struggled with, I always started off with YouTube anyways, just to kind of understand it. And then if I needed to like work on actual projects, then I would go to like Coursera or Udemy and edX and the rest of them.
And then you also mentioned that you studied yourself to fill in skill gaps. Is there a particular skill set that people should have in order to get into the field?
Yes, so for data science, you have to be able to code for sure. So the three main languages that are popular in data science are Python, R, and SAS. Either one of the three should be good. And then you definitely need to know statistics and some math because there's a lot of you will work with like linear regressions and things like that. And then you're not always going to have to create dashboards. It depends on your role, right? And the
Mhm.
company you eventually work for. But I always recommend it because it's an added advantage. So if you can learn like to use any BI tool like Power BI, Tableau, that's also an added advantage to you. And then lastly, which is super compulsory, SQL. SQL is a must have for data science because you're going to be in a lot of databases just doing exploration and just trying to find results, right? For solve problems with the data. So SQL is a must have as well.
And then once we go through these like boot camps and the self learning, is it recommended to put those boot camps on your resume or maybe use like the projects that you learned through the boot camps on your resume? How does that work?
I don't think the companies look out for the boot camps. I think mainly what they look at is what you've done with the skills that you have. So I
Hmm.
would recommend the projects, right? Do a ton of projects. If you can build a portfolio, do that. You can just have like your own little website where you like post all the stuff that you've done and kind of showcase your skill. I think that puts you in a better position as opposed to like putting your boot camp on your resume. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't recommend the boot camp. What they really look for are like to see what you've done with the skills and how you can support them. So that's really what you should be showing on your resume.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Reminds me of engineering too. Like going to the particular school doesn't really matter. It's really the experience that you have. If it's through a project, an internship, or like a side job, any type of experience that you can showcase for yourself,
Mhm.
put it on your resume, and then once you get into that interview, use that time to expand on it.
Exactly. It's the same. I think like a lot of the like regardless of the role, engineering, data science, project management, a lot of it is the same. It's just going to be a different set of skills.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. So I know people should understand that even though as a data scientist, you're working with mathematical algorithms and computers to get a result, that doesn't necessarily mean that the results are unbiased. So I've heard stories and even read articles of how machine learning algorithms and recognition systems show bias like against women and people of color. So as a data scientist, can you speak to what you consider is the biggest ethical challenge that's being faced in the data science community?
Yes, I can speak on that. So when you think about machine learning, we're training these machines, right?
Mhm.
And whoever's training the machine is definitely going to train them based on, you know, say it's a white guy and he doesn't know a lot about black people. So he's gonna train the machine based off of his own knowledge, right?
Mm.
So definitely there's gonna be some bias there. The machine is only gonna spit out what we put in the machine at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So I think one way that we can kind of reduce the bias is just to increase representation in the tech space for people of color. The
Mhm.
more we touch these machines, the more we actually create these models, the more we work with AI, then we can catch the biases. Then we can say, oh, but that doesn't represent me, when we're building these models. We can
Mhm.
easily catch these things like because we're building them, right? So that's
Yeah.
really one way that I would recommend that we kind of reduce the bias. Outside of that, this is a conversation that I've also heard where people kind of complain and say like, "Oh yeah, it's unethical, this and this and that." But then again, the machine is only going to do what we're training to do, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's not the machines that are creating themselves. It's us people are using our experiences, our mindset to create these machines that are going to be doing the work of tomorrow. So
Yeah.
it's really important to, like you said, increase representation, females, people of color into the field. And that's one of the reasons why I'm having this STEM career path series so people can learn about the different career paths and just build interest and show people, like, hey, there's different career paths
Mm-hmm.
that need us people representation. So once we start hearing about these fields, seeing people of color, people that look like us in these fields, it would definitely help just bring awareness of the different issues that are occurring.
I agree. I agree. And also, I think one thing, I don't think we necessarily have to wait to have representation for us to go for things. I know that it encourages more people to do things when they can actually see somebody that, someone of color doing the same thing. But when I
Hmm.
went into data science, there was not really like a black woman that I was looking up to.
Hmm.
So I think just being even curious yourself about what's out there, and we can carve our own path, right? We don't always have to
Yeah.
wait to have representation for us to do things. We can always like create our own path. I think that's kind of how I dabbled into data science because I didn't really wait to find that representation. I was like, well, this seems like something that is interesting, and I'm just going to pursue it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of this quote. I forgot who says it, but it says, "Be the change you want to see in the world." You might not see someone who's already doing it, but if you want to make a difference, if you want to pursue something, just go ahead and do it.
Yep. I agree with that.
All right. So this is going to be our last question. It's a little silly question, but it's also impactful.
Okay.
So with the industry, data science, that's ever changing, right? If I can give you a time machine and you have to go back to a time in your life, maybe when you first started getting interested in the field, what would you tell yourself then to help yourself now?
What would I tell myself then? Like you said, the industry is ever changing. Just continue to learn. That's one thing that actually scares me. It's just like the learning never stops. It's always something new every single time. So I would prepare myself for that, just to understand that I'm entering an industry where I'm going to have to continue learning. I would also prepare myself to speak out more. I think that I've lost a lot of opportunities just because I didn't have the confidence level. I just didn't trust myself enough, even though I had the skill set to pursue certain opportunities. So I would say be confident, go for it. If you do fail, you learn from the process. So don't be
Mm-hmm.
afraid to like make mistakes and just continue to learn, continue to learn, continue to learn, continue be prepared for the learning because
Mm-hmm.
that's just one piece that's never going to change. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, especially like the learning part. It kind of plays with being adaptive to your environment because our environment, life, every day is a different day,
Hmm.
and just being able to adapt to different circumstances or challenges that may come your way. And yeah, like you said, learning.
Yeah, continue to learn.
So now that we've rounded off, how can our listeners connect with you? I know you mentioned in the beginning about a course that you're starting. How can people get involved? Give us the tea information.
Yes, yes, yes.
What's up?
Okay, so if you want to connect with me, the easiest way is to find me on Instagram. My Instagram is Nello Techie. Basically, what I do on Instagram, like I said, is I share a ton of resources. And then now I am building this course because I've noticed with a lot of the people in my audience, there are a lot of people who are struggling with self teaching. Like I said, it's difficult. So I'm building a course that's going to help people with accountability. It's going to provide study materials for the skill set that you actually need to succeed in data roles. I want to focus right now on just analyst and data science, but uh, there could be expansion as just to see just after this cohort. I don't want to like promise too much, but we're gonna start off with analysis and data science.
Do you have an expected time frame when it'll be launched?
Yes, so it should be launched by second week of September. Right now, there is a waiting list because there's only so many people that we can help. So we have a waiting list. And if you're interested, there's a link in my bio on Instagram where you can actually join the waiting list. So if you're struggling with your transition, especially for people who are switching from like non-technical background to like technical roles, I recommend that you try this course out. I've spent many, many months building this, so I'm ensuring that you're going to get results if you do join. Yeah.
Awesome. So I will make sure to put your Instagram information in the podcast description so people have easy access to follow you
Mhm.
and sign up on the waiting list before it closes. But thank you so much, Chanelo, for the information you gave us. It was so helpful. And I know your Instagram has tons of more information on data science that I will be sharing
Mhm.
so people can be engaged and transition into the field. But yeah, thank you so much again. And it was a pleasure having you.
Same here. Same, same. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
And for our listeners, thank you for tuning in to our second episode of the STEM Career Path series. Make sure to rate, like, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Follow us on Instagram at the Win in STEM podcast. And if there's a particular career that you want us to cover, slide in our DMs and let us know. Enjoy the rest of the week. Until next time, be great and go out and win in STEM.